I Am Rich Words, written and published by Audiobook. Words are far more powerful than most people realize. They aren't simply sounds we make or symbols we write. They are the building blocks of our reality, especially our financial reality. Every time you speak about money, whether out loud or in the privacy of your own thoughts, you're laying another brick in the foundation of your wealth journey. The science behind this phenomenon is compelling. Neurolinguistic researchers have discovered that the language we use doesn't just express our thoughts, it actively shapes them. When you repeatedly use phrases like "I can't afford that" or "money doesn't grow on trees," your brain creates neural pathways that reinforce these limitations. These aren't just harmless expressions, they're programming commands for your subconscious mind. Lesson 1. Words create your money world. Your subconscious operates as your financial gatekeeper, filtering opportunities through the lens of the words you've fed it over time. Think of it as an incredibly sophisticated computer that runs on the language software you've installed. If that software is filled with scarcity-based coding, it will faithfully execute those commands, directing your attention away from abundance and toward limitation. Consider Maria, a talented graphic designer who constantly told herself she was terrible with numbers, and that creative people don't make good money. Despite her exceptional skills, she consistently undercharged clients and avoided financial conversations. Her vocabulary had created invisible barriers to her earnings. When she began consciously changing her self-talk to, "I'm learning to master the business side of creativity, and my unique vision is highly valuable," her pricing structure evolved, and her income doubled within 8 months. The transformation wasn't magical, it was mechanical. What makes this process so powerful is what psychologists call the ripple effect. The internal dialogue you maintain about money doesn't stay contained within your mind. It subtly influences your posture, your facial expressions, the opportunities you pursue or ignore, and the financial decisions you make hundreds of times each day. Your wealth vocabulary becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, manifesting in your bank account with mathematical precision. Thomas, a mid-level manager, spent years saying he was drowning in debt. His language choice was revealing. Drowning suggests helplessness, panic, and inevitable failure. When he shifted to saying he was systematically eliminating his debt, everything changed. The new phrasing implied control, strategy, and certain success. His behavior aligned with his words, and his approach to debt repayment became methodical rather than emotional. The most fascinating aspect of wealth linguistics is that the effect works regardless of your starting point. Jerome grew up in economic hardship, where phrases like "we can't afford that" and "that's not for people like us" were everyday utterances. These words had constructed his financial self-image. At 25, he began deliberately adopting the vocabulary of affluence. Not pretentiously, but intentionally. He started referring to himself as financially evolving rather than broke. He replaced "I can't afford it" with "I'm choosing to allocate my resources elsewhere right now." Within 3 years, Jerome had started a successful business. When interviewed about his transformation, he pointed to his changed vocabulary as the catalyst. "My words created a new financial identity," he explained, "and I grew into it." Your wealth journey begins in the dictionary of your mind. The financial terms you use most frequently aren't just describing your money reality. They're actively creating it. This isn't about magical thinking or merely positive vibes. It's about recognizing that language is a technology, perhaps the most powerful one we possess, and it can be upgraded and optimized for wealth creation. As we move forward, you'll learn to identify the specific words that have been limiting your financial growth and replace them with language that expands your wealth potential. Your money world is waiting to be reconstructed, one rich word at a time. Lesson 2. Poor talk V's. Rich talk differences. The words that dance off your tongue daily carry more financial impact than you might realize. Most people never consider how their habitual language patterns directly influence their financial situation. What we say, both aloud and silently to ourselves, creates subtle yet powerful distinctions that either attract or repel money. Let's explore the stark contrast between poor talk and rich talk. Poor talk consistently emphasizes limitations, problems, and reasons why financial success seems impossible. "I can't afford" that serves as perhaps the most common poverty, perpetuating phrase. This statement doesn't merely acknowledge a temporary financial reality. It reinforces a mindset of limitation that becomes self-fulfilling. The wealthy, by contrast, rarely utter these words. Instead, they ask, "How can I afford that?" This simple reframing transforms an obstacle into a creative challenge that engages the problem, solving parts of the brain. Notice the dramatic difference in energy between "I'll never have enough money" and "I'm developing multiple income streams." The first statement closes doors and signals your brain to stop seeking opportunities. The latter activates possibility thinking and prompts your mind to scan for potential revenue sources. Your subconscious mind accepts the statements you repeatedly make as commands to fulfill, regardless of whether those statements serve your financial interests. Wealthy people consistently use language that assumes abundance rather than scarcity. While someone trapped in poor talk might say, "That's too expensive," a person using rich talk asks, "What value will this bring me?" This subtle shift moves the focus from price to worth, a hallmark of prosperity consciousness. The wealthy evaluate purchases based on return on investment rather than immediate cost, which fundamentally changes their relationship with spending. The timing orientation of language also creates significant differences. Poor talk primarily dwells in the painful past or the worried future. "I've always been bad with money," or "I'll probably be in debt forever." Rich talk, however, lives predominantly in the present moment with positive future orientation. "I'm making smart financial decisions today, and I'm building substantial wealth." This present-focused language activates current agency and empowerment, rather than reinforcing old patterns or projecting worries. Ownership represents another crucial distinction. Poor talk relies heavily on language that removes personal responsibility. "The economy is terrible," or "taxes take everything." Rich talk embraces ownership of financial circumstances. "I'm finding opportunities in this market, and I'm structuring my finances to optimize tax strategies." The wealthy understand that language reflecting personal agency creates the mental foundation for taking effective action. Even the questions we habitually ask ourselves reveal our financial programming. Someone trapped in poor talk repeatedly wonders, "Why am I always broke?" or "How will I ever get out of this mess?" These questions direct the brain to find evidence supporting financial struggle. The wealthy ask empowering questions like, "How can I increase my value in the marketplace?" and "What investments align with my financial goals?" These queries prompt the mind to generate productive solutions rather than focusing on problems. The emotional tone of language creates perhaps the most significant difference. Poor talk drips with anxiety, resentment, and defeat. "I hate dealing with money," or "Rich people are just lucky." Rich talk resonates with curiosity, appreciation, and confidence. "I'm fascinated by how money flows, and I create my own financial opportunities." This emotional distinction affects not just your own actions, but how others respond to you, including potential clients, employers, and business partners. Understanding these linguistic patterns illuminates why two people with similar backgrounds and opportunities can experience dramatically different financial outcomes. The person speaking the language of scarcity builds neural pathways that recognize limitation, while the person speaking abundance language develops mental circuitry that identifies possibilities. Over time, these distinct verbal habits create entirely different financial realities. The good news: These patterns are learnable. By consciously recognizing poor talk patterns in your daily communication and deliberately replacing them with rich talk alternatives, you begin rewiring your financial brain. The wealthy aren't speaking their language of abundance because they're rich. They're rich, in part because they've mastered the language of abundance. Lesson 3. Cleaning out money, blocking words. Have you ever noticed how certain words consistently appear in your thoughts about money? These aren't random patterns, but deeply ingrained linguistic habits that may be silently sabotaging your financial future. In this chapter, we'll identify and systematically remove the vocabulary that's keeping wealth at a distance. Your financial vocabulary didn't develop overnight. Since childhood, you've absorbed messages about money from parents, teachers, media, and society. These messages formed into words, phrases, and thought patterns that now run automatically through your mind whenever money situations arise. The problem isn't that you have these patterns. Everyone does. The problem is that many of them contain invisible barriers to wealth. The first step in cleaning out these money-blocking words is honest identification. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down the very first thoughts that come to mind when you think about these triggers. Receiving a large bill, asking for a raise, investing money, or seeing someone with obvious wealth. Don't censor yourself. The raw, unfiltered responses reveal your true money vocabulary. Common wealth-blocking phrases often include, "I can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. I'll never have enough, or that's too expensive." These seemingly innocent statements reinforce a narrative of limitation rather than possibility. Notice how they all contain definitive boundaries and absolutes, leaving no room for expansion or opportunity. What makes these phrases particularly dangerous is their partial truth. Yes, money doesn't literally grow on trees, but this statement is typically used to shut down possibilities rather than open creative thinking about resources. The phrase "I can't afford that" may be factually accurate in the moment, but it reinforces a fixed identity as someone who lacks resources rather than someone temporarily between financial states. The money word detox process requires replacing these limiting phrases with language that creates openings. Instead of "I can't afford that," try "How could I create the resources for that?" Instead of "Money doesn't grow on trees," consider "Money flows where attention goes." Rather than "Rich people are greedy," explore "Wealth creates opportunities for generosity." Pay particular attention to victim phrasing in your financial vocabulary. Statements like "The economy is working against me," "They don't pay people in my field enough," or "I'm just not good with money," all position you as powerless. While external factors certainly influence your financial situation, victim language removes your agency entirely. Replace these with ownership statements. "I'm finding ways to thrive in this economy," "I'm developing skills that command higher compensation," or "I'm learning to make better financial decisions." Creating new language patterns requires vigilance. Your brain has traveled the neural pathways of your old money vocabulary thousands of times, making them the path of least resistance. Catch yourself mid-sentence when old patterns emerge. This interruption is crucial. It creates a moment of choice where you can consciously select wealth, supporting language instead. Some people find it helpful to create physical reminders during this transition period. Place small stickers on your credit cards, computer, or bathroom mirror with alternative phrases. Consider setting random phone alarms labeled with your new wealth language. These environmental cues keep your linguistic renovation top of mind until the new patterns become automatic. Language doesn't just describe reality, it creates it. When you say "I always struggle with money," you're not merely describing a past pattern, but programming your brain to continue it. Your subconscious doesn't evaluate these statements critically. It accepts them as instructions. The most powerful aspect of this cleaning process is that it costs nothing yet yields immediate returns. The moment you begin speaking differently about money, you think differently about money. When you think differently, you notice opportunities previously invisible to you. These opportunities lead to actions that were previously inconceivable. As you clean out your money, blocking vocabulary, approach the process with curiosity rather than judgment. These patterns developed as protective mechanisms based on what you once believed about the world and your place in it. They served a purpose, but they've outlived their usefulness on your journey to wealth. Thank them for their service, then firmly show them the door. Your new wealth vocabulary is waiting to move in. Lesson 4. Power phrases that attract wealth. The language of wealth is precise, intentional, and remarkably potent. While eliminating negative money talk creates space in your mental landscape, filling that space with carefully crafted power phrases actively attracts abundance. These aren't just empty affirmations. They're linguistic tools that rewire neural pathways and create new financial possibilities. Every wealthy individual I've studied maintains a personal collection of power phrases that align their thoughts with abundance. These phrases aren't merely positive. They're specifically designed to trigger what psychologists call approach motivation, the brain's natural drive toward rewards and opportunities. When you consistently use wealth attracting language, you prime your subconscious to recognize and pursue financial openings that previously remained invisible. The most effective wealth phrases share common characteristics. First, they're phrased in the present tense, establishing wealth as your current reality rather than a distant hope. I am wealthy carries significantly more neurological weight than I will be wealthy. The former instructs your brain to align with abundance now, while the latter perpetually pushes wealth into the future. Second, powerful money phrases incorporate feeling states. I confidently attract wealth, or I joyfully receive unexpected money pairs emotions with outcomes, creating multisensory mental imprints. Your subconscious responds not just to the words themselves, but to the emotional states they evoke, creating a more complete programming experience. Consider adopting phrases like money flows to me easily and frequently, or I am a natural money magnet. These statements contradict the common belief that money requires struggle, replacing it with the wealthy person's understanding that abundance can arrive through multiple channels with surprising ease. When repeated consistently, such phrases begin reshaping your perception of how money works. Another category of power phrases focuses on your relationship with wealth. I deserve extraordinary abundance, or I am comfortable with large sums of money. Many people harbor unconscious beliefs about being unworthy of wealth or feeling anxious around significant amounts. These relationship-focused phrases dissolve those barriers, allowing you to receive and manage increasing levels of prosperity. The timing of these phrases matters enormously. Your brain is most receptive to new programming during alpha wave states. The relaxed alertness experienced just before sleep, upon waking during meditation, or while engaging in rhythmic activities. Leveraging these natural windows of suggestibility multiplies the impact of your wealth language. Many financially successful people report keeping their power phrases on their nightstand or phone for morning and evening repetition. To personalize your wealth phrases, begin by identifying which aspects of abundance feel most blocked in your life. Is it the initial earning of money, the retention of what you earn, the growth of your assets? Create phrases that specifically address your financial pain points. If investing intimidates you, I make wise investment decisions with confidence and clarity directly confronts that limitation. Your wealth phrases should evolve as your financial consciousness develops. What feels like a stretch today, I easily earn $10,000 monthly, may become limiting as your prosperity expands. The most financially successful people regularly upgrade their linguistic frameworks to match their expanding vision. Beyond mere repetition, engage with your power phrases through multiple sensory channels. Speak them aloud to activate auditory pathways. Write them by hand to engage motor memory. Visualize their manifestation to create visual associations. This multi-channel approach accelerates the integration of new financial language into your identity. Resistance to certain phrases reveals valuable information about your money blocks. If "I attract wealth effortlessly" triggers internal pushback, you've discovered a belief system requiring attention. Rather than abandoning the phrase, gently persist while acknowledging the resistance as part of your growth process. The language of wealth isn't about denying financial realities, but about creating linguistic pathways toward the prosperity you desire. These carefully constructed phrases serve as verbal bridges, connecting your current circumstances to the abundant future awaiting your arrival. As you consistently engage with these wealth-attracting words, you'll find your financial world beginning to reflect the reality you've so precisely articulated. Lesson 5. Daily Money Talks with Yourself. Perhaps the most life-changing habit you can develop on your journey to wealth is establishing a consistent practice of money talks with yourself. These intentional conversations aren't casual or haphazard. They're structured opportunities to reinforce your new financial identity through the power of focused, consistent language. The ideal wealth dialogue begins in the morning when your mind is fresh and receptive. Upon waking, before the world's distractions compete for your attention, dedicate 5 minutes to speaking wealth-affirming words aloud. This morning ritual serves as a neural primer, establishing the mental framework through which you'll process the day's financial experiences. Rather than mumbling half-heartedly, stand tall, meet your own eyes in the mirror, and declare your financial truths with conviction. I attract wealth effortlessly. Money flows to me in expected and unexpected ways. I am worthy of abundance. When spoken with authentic emotion, these phrases penetrate beyond your conscious mind and begin reprogramming your subconscious expectations. Throughout your day, wealth-minded people maintain awareness of their inner financial dialogue. As money situations arise, whether paying bills, making purchases, or discussing finances with others, they consciously choose language that reinforces abundance rather than scarcity. When encountering unexpected expenses, rather than defaulting to, "I can't afford this," they ask, "How can I create the resources for this opportunity?" This midday awareness acts as a course correction, preventing old language patterns from undermining your progress. By mid-afternoon, many people experience an energy dip that affects both productivity and thought patterns. This represents a vulnerable time when negative money talk can creep back in. Create a calendar reminder for a 3-minute wealth language reset during this period. Step away from your activities, close your eyes, and repeat your core abundance phrases. This brief interlude reestablishes your wealth mindset before negative financial thoughts gain momentum. Evening wealth programming offers another powerful opportunity to solidify your new money language. As your day concludes and your mind prepares for sleep, the subconscious becomes particularly receptive to suggestion. Develop a pre-sleep wealth conversation focused on gratitude for the day's financial blessings, no matter how small. Express appreciation for the money that flowed to you, the value you provided, and the opportunities that presented themselves. This practice transforms your relationship with money from one of grasping to one of gracious receiving. Consistency matters more than duration with daily money talks. 5 minutes of focused, emotionally connected wealth language daily will transform your financial reality more profoundly than occasional hour-long sessions. Your brain responds to repetition by strengthening neural pathways, making wealth-oriented thinking increasingly automatic. To enhance effectiveness, tie your money talks to existing habits. Connect your morning wealth declarations to brushing your teeth. Link your midday reset to lunch. Attach your evening gratitude practice to getting into bed. These behavioral anchors ensure your money talks become non-negotiable elements of your daily life, rather than easily forgotten aspirations. Measuring the impact of your daily money talks provides crucial feedback. Keep a small journal documenting both your adherence to the practice and subsequent shifts in your financial awareness. Note unexpected money that arrives, new income opportunities, changes in your spending decisions, and evolving attitudes toward wealth. Initially, changes may appear subtle. Perhaps you'll notice reduced anxiety when checking your account balance, or find yourself more willing to invest in your growth. Over time, these internal shifts manifest as external financial improvements. Daily money talks work through a compound effect. Just as small deposits grow substantially through compounding interest, your daily wealth language creates compounding returns in your prosperity mindset. The person who speaks rich words consistently for 365 days transforms their financial identity far more profoundly than someone who occasionally engages in positive money talk. Your daily dialogue with yourself represents the foundation upon which all other wealth practices rest. Through intentional, structured conversations at key points throughout your day, you'll establish wealth language as your default setting, programming both conscious and subconscious mind to recognize, create, and receive abundance. Your wealth future begins with these daily conversations. Lesson 6. How rich people actually speak. The distinction between the wealthy and the financially struggling often extends beyond bank accounts and into the realm of language. After studying thousands of hours of interviews, casual conversations, and public appearances by self-made millionaires and billionaires, clear patterns emerge that separate rich speech from everyday talk. These aren't superficial differences. They reflect fundamental mindsets that either create or constrain financial abundance. Wealthy people consistently employ decisive language. Where the average person might say, "I hope to start investing soon," a rich person states, "I'm allocating 20 of my income to investments this quarter." This certainty in speech reflects an underlying assumption that they control their financial destiny rather than being subjected to it. Even when facing unknowns, their language remains resolute. We don't yet know which market sector will outperform, so we're strategically diversifying, versus, "I'm not sure what to do with my money right now." Another striking difference appears in how the wealthy frame problems. Research conducted across multiple economic brackets reveals that financially successful people linguistically transform obstacles into opportunities. When confronted with a business setback, the average person might exclaim, "Everything is falling apart," while the wealthy person would say, "This reveals a weakness in our system we needed to address." This isn't mere positive thinking. It's strategic reframing that keeps momentum moving forward. The wealthy also demonstrate remarkable specificity in their financial conversations. Where someone with a scarcity mindset might vaguely mention making more money, a wealthy individual articulates precise targets. "We're targeting 12 annual returns through this mixed investment strategy." This precision extends to everyday discussions about purchases and expenses. Rather than saying something costs a lot, they reference exact figures and value assessments. Perhaps most revealing is how wealthy people discuss money itself. They speak of money neutrally, as a tool rather than an emotional trigger. They don't splurge on purchases, they allocate resources toward acquisitions that meet specific criteria. This emotional neutrality allows for clearer decision-making and removes the psychological baggage that often accompanies financial discussions. Time references differ dramatically as well. The financially successful speak extensively about the future, using 5-year, 10-year, and even longer time frames regularly in conversation. Their language reflects planning horizons that extend well beyond the next paycheck or the current quarter. This extended time perspective becomes embedded in their speech patterns, with frequent references to legacy, long-term impact, and multi-generational thinking. Interestingly, wealthy people also employ collaborative language more frequently. Where struggling people often use "I" as their primary pronoun in financial discussions, The wealthy regularly employ we, our, and us, even when discussing personal finances. This reflects an understanding that wealth creation is rarely a solo endeavor and requires leveraging relationships, teams, and networks. The confidence-competence loop appears prominently in wealthy people's speech. Their language reflects confidence not born of bravado, but of demonstrated capability. They speak with authority about financial matters because they've developed competence in those areas, which in turn generates more confidence. This virtuous cycle manifests in speech that is assured without being arrogant, informed without being condescending. To authentically adopt these patterns requires more than mimicry. Begin by identifying one pattern that feels most natural to incorporate. Perhaps using more precise numbers in financial discussions or extending your time horizon when speaking about goals. Practice this pattern until it becomes second nature before adding another. The key is gradual, authentic integration rather than wholesale personality change. Rich speech ultimately reflects rich thinking. As you adopt these linguistic patterns, you'll find your underlying thought processes shifting as well. The language patterns of the wealthy aren't merely cosmetic differences. They're outward expressions of fundamental wealth. Building mindsets that once adopted begin reshaping your financial reality from the inside out. Lesson 7. Earning negative money, words around. In the journey toward wealth, our greatest obstacle often lies in how we speak about financial challenges. Money setbacks happen to everyone. Even the wealthiest among us face financial disappointments. The critical difference lies not in avoiding these situations, but in how we linguistically process and express them. When you encounter financial difficulties, your immediate verbal response can either cement your position in lack or propel you toward greater abundance. Consider the common phrase, "I can't afford it." This statement radiates finality and helplessness. It closes doors rather than opening them. Instead, wealthy thinkers automatically translate this to "How can I afford it?" This simple shift transforms a dead-end declaration into an invitation for creative problem solving. Your brain immediately begins seeking solutions rather than accepting limitation. Similarly, when facing debt, most people say, "I'm drowning in debt," or "I'll never get out from under these payments." These expressions create a psychological prison. The wealthy alternative reframes the situation. "I'm implementing my strategic debt reduction plan," or "I'm learning valuable lessons about leverage while working through this temporary situation." Notice how these statements acknowledge the reality while simultaneously placing you in a position of power and forward movement. Bills arrive for everyone. Yet, how we speak about them determines our relationship with money. Instead of saying, "These bills are killing me," try, "I'm grateful for the services these payments maintain in my life." This subtle shift transforms bills from punishment to evidence of your participation in an exchange economy. You're not a victim of bills. You're a consumer utilizing services that require compensation. Job loss or income reduction represents another critical linguistic turning point. Rather than announcing, "I was fired" or "I lost my income," wealthy language users say, "I'm available for new opportunities," or "I'm in transition to my next revenue stream." This isn't mere positive thinking. It's strategic positioning that affects how you approach solutions and how others perceive your situation. Investment losses provide perhaps the most powerful opportunity for linguistic reframing. When markets decline or investments underperform, most people declare, "I lost everything," or "the market destroyed me." Contrast this with wealth-building alternatives. "I gained invaluable market education," or "I'm recalibrating my investment strategy based on new information." These statements acknowledge the situation while maintaining your position as an active participant rather than a passive victim. Even everyday price increases can be reframed. Instead of "Everything's so expensive now," try, "I'm becoming more selective about where I direct my resources." This shifts you from complainant to discerning consumer, one who chooses rather than someone who merely reacts. The language of financial comparison often traps people in negative money talk. They have so much while I have so little reinforces a scarcity mindset. The wealthy alternative might be their success shows what's possible in this economy, or their path provides insights for my own wealth journey. This reframing eliminates the harmful us versus them mentality that keeps wealth at arm's length. Perhaps the most important financial phrase to transform is "I'll never be rich." This declaration, even when said half-jokingly, programs your subconscious for continued financial limitation. Replace it with "I'm learning the principles of wealth creation," or "I'm on my unique path to financial abundance." These alternatives acknowledge your current position while establishing forward momentum. Linguistic transformation doesn't happen instantly. You'll catch yourself using negative money language many times during this process. When you do, don't criticize yourself. Simply recognize the old pattern and immediately provide the wealth-building alternative. Each correction rewires your neural pathways, making wealthy language increasingly natural. Your financial situation begins changing the moment your language changes. By consistently translating negative money talk into opportunity statements, you're not merely adopting a positive attitude. You're restructuring how your brain processes financial information. This new processing leads to different choices, different actions, and ultimately, different results. Lesson 8. Speaking wealth into your future. The language you use today shapes the financial reality you'll experience tomorrow. Unlike reactive speech patterns that merely describe current circumstances, future-focused language activates both your subconscious mind and your conscious planning faculties toward wealth creation. When you consistently articulate a clear financial future, you essentially create a linguistic blueprint that your brain works tirelessly to fulfill. The practice of speaking wealth into your future begins with temporal shifting, deliberately using present tense language to describe desired future outcomes as if they already exist. Rather than the weak conditional "I would like to invest in real estate someday," try the definitive "I am building my real estate portfolio strategically." This language pattern creates neurological pathways that align your current decisions with your stated future. Your brain, unable to distinguish between vividly imagined scenarios and reality, begins preparing for this current reality of property ownership. Verbal visualization differs from typical affirmations by incorporating sensory details and emotional states. When speaking about your financial future, include how financial freedom feels physically, the relaxation in your shoulders, the calm in your chest when bills arrive, the lightness in your step when walking into investment meetings. "I move through my investment decisions with confidence and clarity," activates embodied cognition more effectively than generic statements about wanting more money. Creating a 5-year wealth narrative requires consistent elaboration and reinforcement. Begin by recording a detailed verbal description of your financial life exactly 5 years from today. Speak about your income streams, investment performance, spending patterns, and financial relationships as historical facts rather than hopes. "My decision to invest in emerging markets in 2023 has yielded consistent returns, allowing me to expand my portfolio into sustainable technologies." Listen to this recording weekly, updating it quarterly as your understanding and vision evolve. This narrative should include precise figures and timelines. Vague aspirations produce vague results. "I've built my emergency fund to cover 9 months of expenses at $7,500 per month" creates more cognitive traction than "I have a good savings account." The brain responds to specificity by engaging problem-solving resources to bridge the gap between current reality and your articulated future. Language patterns that manifest opportunities often contain bridge phrases connecting present action to future outcomes. As I expand my professional network this quarter, I'm attracting partners for my upcoming venture launch creates causality between present efforts and future results. This linguistic structure motivates current action while maintaining focus on the desired outcome. Perhaps most powerful is the practice of speaking about wealth challenges from your future perspective. When facing a financial setback, verbalize how your future self will describe overcoming this obstacle. This temporary cash flow challenge became the catalyst for developing the automated income system that now generates $10,000 monthly. This reframes difficulties as developmental steps rather than permanent conditions. Throughout this process, you're establishing verbal bridges to your desired financial reality, linguistic pathways your mind and actions will follow. These bridges include transitional phrases like "I'm in the process of," "I'm developing," and "I'm cultivating." Unlike wishful thinking, these expressions acknowledge the journey while maintaining unwavering focus on the destination. The consistent practice of future-focused financial language gradually shifts your identity. You begin making decisions not from who you currently are, but from who you're becoming. This identity migration is perhaps the most transformative aspect of speaking wealth into your future. As your self-concept shifts, actions that previously required tremendous willpower become natural expressions of your evolving financial identity. Your financial future begins with the words you choose today. By deliberately crafting and consistently voicing the financial reality you intend to create, you establish the verbal architecture of your wealth. Your language doesn't merely describe possibilities, it actively constructs them. Start speaking as the wealthy individual you're becoming, and watch as your financial world reconfigures to match the future you've already articulated into existence. Lesson 9. Making rich words feel natural. There's a peculiar tension that arises when we first begin adopting the language of wealth. Many of us experience a sense of phoniness, as if we're actors reciting lines that don't truly belong to us. This feeling is entirely normal. When you've spent years or decades speaking in patterns aligned with financial limitation, suddenly shifting to the vocabulary of abundance can trigger what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Your mind recognizes the contradiction between your established identity and these new expressions, creating resistance. This resistance often manifests as imposter syndrome. You might think, "Who am I to talk about wealth when my bank account doesn't reflect it?" Or "I feel ridiculous saying these things." This internal conflict is actually evidence that you're pushing against the boundaries of your comfort zone, exactly where transformation happens. The discomfort isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's confirmation that you're disrupting long-held patterns. The journey toward making rich words feel natural begins with acknowledging this discomfort, rather than trying to suppress it. When you notice that feeling of inauthenticity, pause and recognize it as part of the growth process. Every person who has successfully transformed their financial vocabulary has navigated this same psychological terrain. The difference is simply that they persisted through the awkward phase. One effective approach for naturalizing wealth language is gradual integration. Rather than attempting to overhaul your entire vocabulary overnight, begin by introducing one or two phrases that feel slightly stretched but not completely foreign. Perhaps you'll start with "I make decisions like a wealthy person," rather than leaping directly to "I am extraordinarily wealthy." This progressive adoption allows your subconscious to adjust incrementally, reducing the intensity of resistance. Another powerful technique is contextual association. Connect your new wealth vocabulary to environments where it feels more natural. Perhaps practice your prosperity phrases while dressed professionally, seated in an upscale cafe, or immediately after completing an accomplished task. These contextual anchors help your brain form positive associations with the language, gradually dissolving the feeling of artificiality. Physical embodiment accelerates this naturalization process considerably. Your body language and vocal qualities dramatically influence how authentic your words feel. Stand tall, speak with resonance and appropriate volume, maintain steady eye contact, even when speaking to yourself in a mirror, and use deliberate hand gestures that convey confidence. This physical alignment creates congruence between your words and your physical state, significantly reducing the sensation of fakeness. The company you keep plays a crucial role in how quickly rich words become second nature. Seek out environments and relationships where prosperity-focused language is the norm. This might mean joining investment clubs, entrepreneurial organizations, or simply spending more time with friends who speak ambitiously about money. Conversely, you may need to temporarily limit exposure to people who consistently engage in scarcity-based conversations. Our language patterns are highly contagious, and environmental immersion dramatically accelerates adaptation. The transition from awkwardness to authenticity follows a predictable pattern. First comes mechanical repetition. You're consciously forcing yourself to use new terminology. Next comes the conditional comfort phase, where the words feel natural in certain contexts but not others. Finally, integration occurs when these expressions flow spontaneously from you, without conscious effort. This evolution typically takes between 60–90 days of consistent practice. Throughout this process, maintain curious awareness of your internal dialogue about using wealth language. When resistance arises, approach it with fascination rather than frustration. Ask yourself, what belief is creating this discomfort? Often, you'll discover limiting ideas about deserving, appropriateness, or identity that need examination. The ultimate sign that rich words have become natural is when they emerge spontaneously during moments of stress or surprise. When your automatic, unfiltered responses reflect abundance thinking rather than scarcity reactions, you'll know the transformation has taken root at the deepest level. Your new wealth vocabulary isn't just something you practice. It has become an authentic expression of who you are. Lesson 10. Building your new money story. Words are the foundation upon which we build our personal money narratives. Throughout this book, we've explored how language shapes our financial reality, identified wealth-blocking vocabulary, and discovered powerful alternatives that attract abundance. Now it's time to weave these elements together into a coherent, empowering money story that will guide your financial future. Your money story isn't just about affirmations or positive thinking. It's the comprehensive narrative that explains your relationship with wealth, defines your financial identity, and directs your economic decisions. For many people, this story has been written unconsciously, influenced by family patterns, cultural messages, and early experiences with money. The revolutionary understanding is that you possess the authorial power to rewrite this narrative deliberately. Consider your current money story. Does it cast you as the victim of economic circumstances? Does it position wealth as elusive, difficult, or morally questionable? Does it limit your potential with predetermined financial ceilings? These narrative constraints might have been appropriate chapters in your past, but they need not dictate your future. Creating your new money story begins with establishing your narrative position. Rather than being swept along by financial currents, you are now the protagonist actively directing the plot. This shift from passive to active voice in your story reflects a fundamental transfer of power, from external circumstances to internal agency. In practical terms, this means replacing phrases like "money is always tight for me" with "I'm expanding my capacity to earn and retain wealth." Your new money story must include a compelling origin tale. Even if your beginnings were humble or challenging, reframe these experiences as valuable training that developed your resilience, resourcefulness, and determination. The wealthy often speak of early struggles, not as limitations, but as formative advantages that equip them with unique perspectives and skills others lack. The characters in your money narrative matter tremendously. Populate your story with mentors, allies, and guides who support your wealth journey, whether they're real relationships or inspirational figures whose examples light your path. Simultaneously, Reduce the narrative importance of naysayers and doubtcasters. In storytelling terms, elevate your wealth supporters to main characters while relegating financial detractors to minor roles. Plot development in your money story should acknowledge challenges without making them insurmountable. When you encounter financial obstacles, incorporate them as plot twists that ultimately strengthen your character and advance the narrative, not as story-ending defeats. This narrative technique transforms setbacks from conclusions into complications that set up your eventual triumph. Effective money stories contain vivid sensory elements. Describe in specific, sensory-rich language how wealth feels, looks, sounds, and even smells in your life. When you say, "My investments generate abundant returns," visualize exactly what those returns enable. Perhaps the sound of waves at your beach house, the feeling of writing a check for your child's education, or the satisfaction of funding causes you believe in. The timeline of your money story should extend beyond immediate goals. Craft narrative arcs that span years and even generations, positioning your current actions as foundational chapters in a longer legacy. This temporal expansion prevents short-term thinking and aligns daily financial decisions with your grandest aspirations. Perhaps most importantly, your money story must feel true at the deepest level. This doesn't mean limiting yourself to current circumstances, but rather creating narrative consistency between your values, identity, and financial ambitions. If your story casts you as someone who creates wealth through exploiting others, yet your values center on fairness and compassion, this dissonance will undermine your progress. Align your wealth narrative with your authentic self. Review and revise your money story regularly. Stories are living documents that evolve as you grow. The narrative that launches your wealth journey may need expansion as you achieve initial goals and set more ambitious ones. This ongoing editorial process ensures your money story remains relevant and motivating throughout your life. By consciously constructing your money narrative with rich words and empowering themes, you create not just a script for financial success, but a transformative lens through which all economic opportunities and challenges are viewed. Your money story becomes both your map and your compass, guiding daily decisions while keeping you oriented toward your ultimate destination. A life of authentic abundance on your own terms.